Hello everyone, I'm Silverraptor and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon deck creation video. Now, don't really have a concise deck that you guys suggested in the works at the moment, but instead I decided I'd rather share a deck that is one of my personal favorites, and it was actually the first deck I made minus the create a US General and Soviet General deck that most new players start off to begin with, just to get into the game. So, uh, the deck that we're going to be doing is Red 4, and it is the Eastern Bloc support deck. Now, I'm seeing a lot of people go, ew, support. Supports aren't really that favored due to the fact that they are generally lots of artillery, and this does have a lot of artillery, don't get me wrong, and people don't like being artillery and unable to really counter them. But it actually was a pretty fun deck to begin. It started off a bit as a joke deck, where the whole strategy is that there's militia in this deck, and the idea is to get the militia into the same building as like Delta Force or Volkskrieger 90s, same building complex and everything, and the enemy's just focused, seeing the militia being picked off left and right, that they don't realize that the artillery that this support deck has targets right on top of the same building compound where the militia are, with the idea of being, you're Red 4, you don't care about this militia, you want to kill the more trained, more expensive troops on top of it. Which was funny for the lulz that when I first put that together. And it's kind of worked, and I've refined the deck and refined it a bit more, until finally I actually had a working, pretty good deck by the end of it before they did the whole massive change and then my entire deck got wiped. So I definitely want to get this put back together. I'm going to give it a different name. I did name it the Soviet Militia, but it has evolved since then. So it's going to be I'm just going to call it this. I was going to call it the Soviet. Soviet Eastern Support. No, it's not really Soviet. I'll just call it the Eastern Support Division. There we go. We'll call it that. Okay. So, what's actually going to be interesting is that Support tab gives us a maximum logistics selection. So, we're going to dive deep into this. And first thing, which is absolutely mandatory for this deck, is we're going to get a Czechoslovakian fob, we're going to get a Poland fob, and we're going to get an East German fob, because we want to share the love around. There's no better nation in this, so I do have a few opinions on that in terms of troops. But another interesting fact is I created this deck before the DLC for the better tanks and everything that the Eastern nations got. So this support nation, when I first made it, had access to almost all the troops a regular general nation of any of these three nations would have, but that has since significantly changed. And we're not expected to get heavy tanks. So we're going to have all these fobs. And these fobs are going to play quite critical role, because we're going to, of course, be bringing in lots of artillery, but we're also going to supply lots of supply for our troops and for our allies. Now, that's another thing that people don't really expect with this style of deck, is the sheer fact that you can bring so much supply, you can take over the role of resupplying your allies. Your allies will be the front line. They will fight and battle it out, and you're the one who's jolly on the spot, bringing in their supplies, maybe a little bit of fire support to help them out, but you're basically going to give your allies the glory, and you are the one who's going to take care of all the logistics and maybe a little bit of support, artillery and long-range fire, and we'll see this as it comes forward. So we've got all of our supply. Another thing that you should take the role of is lots of CVs. Now I'm going to take a look at these, and They are virtually identical. They actually are identical, except one has a machine gun and the other does not. So I think I'm going to take the cheaper one because we can get the exact same amount. It's not going to have a machine gun, but you're hopefully not wanting to have a machine gun on these poor things. And it's fast, it's amphibious. What about this? Less fast, less amphibious. It has a machine gun. Don't really care for that. Now, interesting, you could bring in a CV helicopter on this. One of these things. The reason being is that these can count as an extra recon unit, but I would discourage against it. So since we had our vehicle, we should probably want an infantry to go along with it. Now, I forget which of the infantry is better. I think it's the East Germans. Yep, the East Germans infantry have a close quarters machine gun and a higher rate of fire, a more accurate main gun, and they're shock trained. So basically, they can just give up a little bit more of a fight than the other infantry in this. And that is a full stack of logistics tab. We've got 3 fobs, we've got 6 MI6, so lots of supply. We've got 10 basically Colos, but we got Czechs and East Germans. Czechs and East Germans, and then we've got the Polish APC, and we've got some regular infantry as well. So this gives us a flexibility on taking zones. You definitely want to be in charge of the zone that brings in reinforcements at the start of the game, because that's where your artillery is going to dwell. Now, we're going to go into the logistics tabs first. That is, we need to make sure we get all of our logistics and supplies set up and support, and then we're going to figure out how we're going to help our team. First thing we do need Ondavas. Ondavas are critical. They are one of the best artillery pieces in the game. With the amount of shells they have and the dispersion and accuracy and speed off-road, so they can quickly move out of the way. Next thing we want is the East German artillery. This is our secondary line. If you can get both Ondavas and both of these artillery units, you have 4 long-range, repeated fire action artillery pieces on the field. This can actually survive a few shots. They're generally the same price, so that is all good, fine, and dandy. Now we're going to need some Nuas, and Nuas are they the same as these Cubs? They have more armor than the Cubs. That's the difference. For 5 points more, I will take those Nuas. We could get some of these for extra AA support. You know what? We do need to have lots of AA, so let's put that in. We need Strop 2s. That's definitely going to be a must. And we're going to need these guys for extra helicopter AA support there. Now we're diving into the lesser AA territory. We'll take a look at that in a moment. These things, I love these things. We're going to get a card of them. And the reason why these are good is because they have 80 rockets. They don't fire all of those rockets in one go. Each volley uses up 40 rockets, which means you could fire rockets, move these, wait for a little bit for them to reload, and then they can fire again before they need to be resupplied. And they can provide extra smoke. So that is pretty damn good in my book. We could get more Donnas as backup, but I kind of found that with the Ondava, we'll compare the Donna and the Ondava, is that by the time you need to call upon these Donnas, unless you haven't been keeping close attention on these Ondavas, you're kind of running out of supply, or you don't have the amount of points to really use the Donnas to full effect. So I'm kind of inclined not to do that. If anything, I'd probably get the Sniper 10HE artillery. But for another support, we can also get some cluster munition, just to provide a little extra firepower in a region. And most likely we could get the Pram for actual mortar support. Or we can get some Sopels, which are amphibious. They can provide a little more helicopter defense. Let's compare the Sopel to the Strop 2. Let's pin them so that we can actually see. So the Sopel has longer and more accurate missiles. It's fairly fast. The Sopel is a good unit, don't get me wrong. So it's basically between the Sopel and the Pram. We have a lot of AA in terms of NUAs. We. Oh, this is tough. We are going to come back to this. This is only 1 point. We can fill this up later. We will come back and we will decide between these two pieces. Infantry. We need to now start adding in infantry to help out our teammates. As you can see, there's still quite a bit of infantry that we can choose from, but we are actually going to go a bit more on the support side. But we are going to get some Machschützen 90s. Now, which vehicle do we want to get them in? And I think we want to get them, yeah, we want to get them in the MZTM MTLB because it is just faster and it's smaller in size, which means there's a chance that things can miss it more. So we do need to get Machschützen 90s. I'm just going to get 2 cards of that. I think we can skip out on the regular Machschützen. This is more of direct infantry, so you at least have something that you can put on the front lines to help out your teammates, so you're not entirely reliant on them. We do need AA infantry. You know what? There's so many units. We're actually going to do this for once. So we've got the Grom. That's a 60% accuracy. Strela 3, Strela 2s, our Iglas. Okay, so we're going to get the Grom. And they're going to come in. Do we want the Promet? Promet gives a little more AA and a little more infantry support. We do have recoilless rifles. Oh yeah, let's get the Grom in that. Let's check the anti-tank. So we've got faggots, we've got Conkers, more Conkers M. We're definitely going to need to get these guys. And we're going to get them in the 62B, which have a recoilless rifle attached to them. These trucks. So these can actually provide a little more fire support on top of that. So we want to get that. And engineers. Sappery. We can't get the Strumworthy, which I would have really liked. Fire support. We can get the grenade launcher, granatomets, or RPGs. Yeah, we'll get granatomets. Then we'll just check briefly if there's anything else. Lakata. No, don't want them. Nor do I want them. Nor do I want them. So the light riflemen are out. The reserve are reserve Schützen, or the Nincy. The reserve Schützen come in 15-man squads, which could be pretty useful in swarming an enemy. This is what my original strategy was: is use these guys and then use the artillery on top. But I've since moved away from that. It was fun as a joke, but in terms of making this deck really viable, I'd stay away from the militia and regular riflemen. We get Machschützen 90s. We could get Motostrelsi. But compare that to the Machschützen. Machschützen are double the points, have a close quarters combat machine gun, 600 rounds per minute. That's double the accuracy. It's shock trained, got a 24 AP power RPG at the same range, and have a 50% accuracy main gun. So even though these guys come in recoilless rifles, this is probably going to be our infantry tab. And I'm just going to select all, so there's no problems later. Now the tanks kind of fall off, but they have upgraded it since. It used to be that the best tank that I could get in this deck was the T62 CZ. And the reason why I know that is because of the picture. I recognized that picture for so long. This was the kind of the best tank I could bring in, but they have expanded our arsenal quite a bit. So we've got the T-72M1 or the T-72M1CZ. And looking at the two, they have the same armor and the same speed. So they're the same chassis. They have the same machine gun. The only difference is in their main gun. And the only difference is that the T-72M1 has 2 more AP power than the T-72M1CZ. So we're going to take the T-72M1. We're going to get, we'll get 2 hardened. And is there any other good tanks that we can really choose from? Not really. So yeah, so that's going to be our entire tank tab. It's just those. Now, we're going to need to get lots of recon because we definitely need to spot all of our enemies as quickly as possible. These are not the best. What about these guys? Ooh, these guys come in with a sniper rifle, and they can come in a truck. Or we could bring them into a helicopter. Now, the problem is I would bring them in with the Mi-25. There's just one problem. As you can see, the Mi-25 doesn't have that accurate Fleta missiles. And I want to get as many recon as possible, so I would get these guys in at hardened. Those missiles will still miss more than they hit. The best way to get value of the Mi-25 or these kind of helicopters is to bring them with elite infantry, so you can get them in at elite. Therefore, you have about a 50-50% chance that those missiles will actually start hitting their targets. So we are going to ignore that helicopter for the time being. Grenzers. Now these are militia. They are cheap, but the beneficial thing is that we can bring in a lot of them around the field so that we can spot everything. Just trying to look. It's not a whole lot. We can get an exceptional recon here, but we definitely want to get these guys. We want to get these guys, and we can only get one in the truck. So that's if we want to bring another, we have to bring it in the Mi-25. Don't want to be forced to do that. We can bring in some cheap vehicle. Let's get an exceptional. What's the worst that could happen? And we could get the exceptional optics, the Mi-2 row or the Mi-2. The Mi-2 row has greater autonomy too. But we can only bring 4 of these guys in. And anything else good we can really bring in? Not really. So I think we are going to actually get some Grenzers. We'll get them trained so they can spot stuff better. And we'll just organize this over here as such. I'll just put that over here. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, this is looking better. Okay. Alright, how many Mi-2s do we get? We can get 6 Mi-2s. Or 4. Let's go with the exceptional recon over the very good. Just so that we could really spot stuff out from afar. Vehicles. We definitely want to get vehicles for fire support. The first thing we're going to do, we are going to get the prams. Okay. Do we need 12? I don't think we need 12. We could get 8 because they have 5 HE power and very long range. This is what I told you, the fire support section of this tab. We are also going to need to get a napalm vehicle. I'm not entirely sure. Which nation are we using more? Yeah, checks. I guess it doesn't really matter. So we can get, I guess it comes down to paint job. Same paint job. So they all don't have a paint job. It's basically who has a side on it. Interesting enough, the Czechs don't actually have a flag. They just have a bunch of numbers. I think we want to show off some national pride. So it's between Poland or East Germany. Oh, East German. I see East Germany has both the symbol as the number. So we are going to get that. Going to get those hardened as well. And Conquerors. We can get Conquerors. Is this the best? I'm sure they had a Conquerors M variant. Kind of forcing us to take, but we will come back to that. We will be getting these guys, and we will be getting 20 of them, because their machine guns can rip apart infantry, and they are basically hit me shields. You can put this in front of your allies' heavy tanks or units and such, and these guys will take the first fire over them, generally because they are pretty fast on the road, and then off-road they kind of move at the same speed as a large number of other vehicles and infantry. And if you can intercept the missiles or the shells, it gives your allies more chance of taking the enemy out. We are going to put that, so that's going to be our vehicle tab. Helicopters are definitely going to be needed in here. We are going to get 6 Mi-25 because with their 10 HE power rockets, they can provide very valuable anti-infantry ground support. The Mi-4s, they do have a bunch of rockets, 128 rockets on these things. I love the looks of these things. I always imagine, every time I look at this, that a bird just flies, lands right on this rocket pod, and the whole helicopter tips over. Well, we could get that. Not inclined to do it. We are going to get some Mi-2 URSs. We're going to get 6 of them. And the reason why we're going to get 6 of these is because they have 4 strengths. And because they have 4 strengths, they can be taken out by any AA missile that hits them. So we need to be careful about these guys, but they can lose them quite easy. The good news is they do have an autocannon, which I cannot find for the life of me where it could possibly be on board. It's just we're supposed to take its word that it has an autocannon on it. Oh, I see it now. It's right here. It's in the shade, the shadow. There it is, right there. Okay. And we need to also be able to provide some anti-tank support with the helicopter. So we're going to organize them as such. So we've got a number of goods supporting helicopters, aircraft. Now, we definitely need, these are all going to be support aircraft. We're going to need the CR-30 because we need that anti-tank power coming in. We could get that napalm, but I think we could get the MiG-29 where it could possibly be, I'm pretty sure, there it is. There's the MiG-29. And then we've got 3 points. Okay, so we've got 3 points there. And we are going to, we've got anti-tank, we've got anti-infantry. We don't need any more like cluster or anything. So you know what? We're going to go seed. Look at the different seed, and hello! Why have I not noticed you before? I guess they added them recently. The Su-7B is a seed missile 1 anti-radar missile, so if it misses, you're out of luck, but I think it has the... No, it doesn't. And it is... we're going to get the Su-22 M4P because that is the best. Now, I do remember that I wanted to get... some points for this last bit here. So recon, we could get rid of the Grenzers. That would give us 2 extra points. Interesting. Because I'm pretty sure we want to get Sopels or the Pram. Well, maybe we don't need that. How much AA do we have? So we've got 6 proms on promets. We've got 6 drops with 5 flat SFLs. And we've got 8 dedicated anti-aircraft AA. We've got the Mi-2 URS, which can take out some helicopters that get too close. Oh, They have 3 HE power. So these actually would probably be the one that we want to get rid of. If we did, what would we get instead? Okay, well, I'm just gonna get rid of that so that we can see what's all still available. We could get rid of the Grenzers, or we could get rid of these tanks and put in 8 trained instead. That gives us 4 points, which means we can get an extra recon. But what are the recon? I don't think there's any other real recon we would possibly want. I mean, these guys are okay, but they're not the best. Oh, decisions. We could get another aircraft. Not seed, but I'm not sure what else we want. We already have... We could get 6 custards. Custard's not the best. I think the aircraft are good for the time being. So... So the only thing we could really do for the points, we could get an air superiority fighter, but which one would we want? So MiG-23ML is pretty decent. Can shoot pretty long range. I mean, it's got terrible ECM. That's its downside. We could basically support our allies with air support. You know what? We'll do that. Instead of getting SOPELs, which we'll probably only use if we run out of all of our AA, we will get some MiG-29 9-113S, just because they've got one of the longest range missiles with 6 HE power. They'll fire off 2 of these by the time they get into the close range combat, where they'll be able to fire their infrared fire and forget missiles. So, and we can bring them in at veteran, so we can have plenty of these guys up. And this actually kind of works out in terms of organization. So put that there, and we put that there. You know what? Hang on. Almost done. There we go. In terms of price and roll, we've got that all squared away. Let's see. Helicopters, that's good. Vehicles is good. Recon, that is good. Tanks, these are fire support tanks only. They are not meant to go up in the front line. You basically tell your ally after you. We've got our Ondavas, our main artillery. We need to organize this. Holy crap, I just realized that. Okay. How to organize... I know what we do. Okay, so we're going to put that... Hang on. That, and then this goes here, and then this goes all the way over there. And that organized basically to artillery, rocket barrage, cluster rocket barrage, Strop, Nuwa on wheels, Nuwa tread, Tunguska tread. For support, infantry, we've got all of our Mach Schutzen 90, so we have 28 of these guys, so we can really back up our ally. We've got our Groms to shoot down any pesky helicopters that get too close. We've got our Conquerors M to help out taking out any heavy tanks, and we've got our Granatomets to help out against any huge abundance of infantry that we might encounter. And then we've got all the supply ever in terms of that. And for logistics, I'm actually going to deviate from my typical Red 4. I actually did this in my actual deck. We're going to turn off everything except for the artillery anti-ship. We are going to get 2 BALs. We're going to get 8 of these... How do you pronounce these? KRK Rubeza? and we are going to get 6 Reddits. And this is just to keep enemy ships away from our shoreline. We don't really have the army to support any ships that go out there, so we're going to put that all out. And for supply, we are going to get 1 card of Munas, because these are the equivalent of FOB and supply. So if you park these on the coast, you could resupply a lot of ally stuff is also by the coast, or any trucks and such that you bring on there. And finally, the last thing that we want to bring in terms, I mean, we could bring supply vehicles, more of these colos and such, but we only get 5 and we're paying 10 extra points, so we're not going to get that. Instead, we are going to get, where's the helicopter? Here it is, helicopter anti-ship, Super Pumas. Now, I actually haven't looked at this in a while. Let's compare all of these different helicopters. Now, so the Z9C is strictly worse than the Super Puma. The only difference is it has exceptional optics at sea, but the Super Puma has very good optics on sea, so that's moot point. These guys have better AP power, but slightly less accuracy, and they are slower, which means they can get into the danger zone of being shot down. And these guys, they have 10 health, and they basically have the same kind of missile, and they're more expensive. So you know what? We're going to get Super Pumas. I've had good use of these Super Pumas before, so that's good. This is good to be our only thing that's going to help us shoot at ships that are out of range of our artillery or our anti-ship missiles right here. And that would be our... hang on. Yeah, I think this will be our deck. Yeah, so the Eastern Bloc support deck, I almost said artillery. It is a support deck in every sense of the term. You're supposed to assist your ally with all the artillery, but also fire support, indirect fire mainly, but you do have some direct fire stuff in here to help out with your ally if they so need it. But I will say, playing this deck in the past and probably going to be playing upcoming, this deck is actually going to be, it's very straining. You literally have to keep an eye on the entire map at once, always going back and forth between your artillery and the front line. And if it's on a 10v10 map, you have to watch the entire front line of the 10v10 back and forth, and going back, and make sure you know how to do the shift click of your artillery. Tell them to fire and instantly shift click afterwards, so that in case you forget about them, they will automatically move out of position, so that an enemy doesn't start artillering their position as well, which is very important. Otherwise, if you lose these guys, you lose the main key focus of your deck. So I wanted to show this deck to you guys. I will play with this upcoming. I do want to thank you all for watching. Please do like, comment, and subscribe, and suggest any other decks you want me to do, try making down below in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next video.